Today we'll be talking about division with decimal quotients, word problems, dividing decimals, and simplifying fractions. We'll be starting off with division with decimal quotients. So for number 1, we have 1 divided by 2, and we would write that with the 1 inside the division bars and then the 2 outside. 1, however, 2 cannot go into 1, so therefore we got to put a point or decimal point here, and then we get to add a 0. So we do 2 goes into 10 5 times. So the answer to number 1 is 0.5. Number 2 is same thing except for it's 5. 5 does not go into 1, so you put a decimal point. We add the 0. 5 goes into 10 2 times. So the answer to number 2 is 0. Number 3, 5 divided by 2. 5 does not go into 2, so we put a decimal point here. We add a 0. 5 goes into 24 times. So the answer to number 3 is 0.4. And let's try number 5. 3 divided by 8. So the 8's on the outside and the 3 is on the inside. 8 does not go into 3 anytime, so we put a point. We add a 0. 8 goes into 33 times. So 8 times 3 is 24. Subtract, we put a 6. 8 does not go into 6, we have to add another 0. 8 goes into 67 times. So 8 times 7 is 56. So we get a 4. We add another 0. And 8 times 5 is 40. So the answer to number 5, number 5 is 0.375. Now going on to word problems. Number 1 says a lollipop factory uses 405 grams of sugar to make 5 batches of lollipops. How much sugar did the factory put into each batch? We're going to do 5 divided by 407. 5 goes into 48 times. So the 40 gets cancelled out. But we drag down the 7. 5 goes into 7 one time. So this turns into a 2. 5 does not go into 2, so we put a decimal point here. We add the 0. 5 times 4 is 20. So we get 81.4 kilograms of sugar per batch. And now for let's try number 3. Robert built a tower of blocks that was 87 centimeters high. He used 10 identical blocks to build the tower. What was the height of each block? So for this one, we gotta do 87 divided by 10. So 87 divided by 10. 10 goes into 87 8 times. So we do this, so 7. But 10 does not go into 7, so we have to add a decimal point after the 8. We put this at 0, and 10 times 7 equals 70. So for number 3, we get 8.7 centimeters. Now moving on to dividing decimals. So this is the same as any other, so 1.5 divided by 0.5. However, there is a special rule for this. If there's a decimal point outside of the division bars, then you gotta make this a whole number, and you gotta scoot the decimal point here so it becomes a whole number, which means you moved one place here, then you also gotta move one place here. So it becomes 5 divided by 15. And you get 3, because 5 times 3 is 15. And you get 3. So 1.5 divided by 5 would be 0.3, because you gotta still keep the decimal point up here. And for number 2, you have 2.7 divided by 0.3. But remember, this becomes 3 and this becomes 27. And 3 times 9 is 27, but you gotta keep the decimal point here. So number 2 will be 0.9. The last part is simplifying fractions. So for number 1, you have 2 over 4. And you just gotta divide it by what could be divided by both the numerator and denominator. Divide both sides by 2. Then this becomes 2 divided by 2 is 1. And 2 divided by 4 is 2. So it's 1 over 2. So for number 1 is 1 over 2. Number 5 is 5 over 15. They both could be divided by 5. So you do 5 divided by 5 equals 1. And 5 divided by 15, or 15 divided by 5 equals 3. So the answer to number 2 is 1/3. And let's try one more. 72 divided by 100. So for this one, you have multiple options. You could divide everything by 4, makes it faster, or pretend you didn't know that this was divisible by 4, then you could just divide by 2. But since I know that it's divisible by 4, I'm going to do 72 divided by 4, which equals 18. And 100 divided by 4 equals 25. So number 3 is 18 over 25.